Donald Trump had been at the podium for just a few minutes in Butler, Pennsylvania, the latest of so many campaign rallies. This one familiar, like all the others. And then it happened.
Take a look at what happened.
Well, if there was a competition for who in Australia has played Savage Garden music the most, I'd enter it. I would certainly have to be up there as a finalist at the very least, I have to say. For 2 albums that Savage Garden released, with singer Darren Hayes at the helm, were so brilliant. I loved those 2 albums so much, and I loved Savage Garden, and I've loved Darren Hayes in his solo career as well. I'm looking forward to reading his book. But as the world grapples with the shock of having an attempted assassination on democracy occur, Darren Hayes took to his Instagram and probably other socials as well and made a post that I find so truly bizarre that I had to just stop and take a moment to recalibrate, because it was more than bizarre, it seemed very hateful. So I've reached out to Mark in the United States, who is equally perplexed by this post that Darren Hayes has made. Mind you, please keep in mind, this post has been made in the hours after this attempted assassination occurred, so the timing is truly insensitive as well. G'day Mark, how are you?
I'm doing well, how are you?
I'm really well, but I noticed that you were one of the few, like me, who actually wrote a comment underneath this Instagram post saying, yeah, no, not the greatest comment, Darren. What did you make of it?
Well, I mean, I think he took a wrong time to bring in, because he's very political lately, I've noticed, and he's gotten into American politics a lot. I guess he doesn't really you can tell from his post that he doesn't care for Donald Trump, and has definitely been trying to push for President Joe Biden to be reelected in this coming election in November.
I'll tell you what he wrote. I hate that anyone tried to injure Trump. However, there's a difference between extremist right-wing nuts and Democrats. My first thought was to condemn the violent act. When Nancy Pelosi's husband's head was bashed in with a hammer, Trump made a joke. Trump thrives in violence. He incites it. He relishes in it. All we can do is separate ourselves from this heinous act and not celebrate it. That is what makes us different. Now, you left a reply for Darren on his public Instagram page. Tell us what you objected to.
I told him, that it was a joke of a post, because it's basically saying that he's sorry to hear about Trump, but not really, because I hate that anyone would try to injure Trump, but then follows with, well, Trump incites this violence. I'm like, so it's a backhanded sympathy card. You're not really sorry, and you could have just said nothing, and it probably would have meant more.
And Mark, for me, there's a couple of problems here. Number one is the timing. The world is reacting in absolute horror at this. The imagery of this attempted assassination is so horrific. And it's, as people are saying, like yourself, this isn't only about Trump. This is an attack on democracy. And to post something like this in the hours afterwards while we're still in shock is quite bizarre. And I know Darren has gone on in the comments section to deny this, but there is no denying, I'm sorry, Darren, there's no denying that there is more than an element of what goes around comes around in your post.
And then when he goes on to say that the servicemen gave an oath to protect him, and that Trump was trying to grab his shoes and then forcing the men to stay on the stage so he could continue to say his stuff.
So just to clarify, Mark, what you're talking about there, this is the double down. I'd call it Darren Hayes' double down. So I've read you the original statement, but then he writes in the comments something that I found equally bizarre. He writes, "It's disgusting to me that Trump, in the middle of this terrifying moment, risked the lives of his security detail to make sure he had his shoes and made them pause so he could get a propaganda photo opportunity of his fist in the air. Any one of those servicemen or women who took an oath to give their life for his would have been injured or could have been injured or killed. He ignored their orders to leave in order to look like a hero. He is vermin, but he still didn't deserve that bullet." I'm sorry, Darren. This is outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. I'm not a Trump supporter. I make this really clear. Wearing my shoes was the most human moment I've ever seen of Trump, personally, because it's like he's not in a rational state of mind to be worried about his shoes, right? And anyone who's had a trauma, a car accident or something horrific, you don't act like yourself and you don't see the world rationally. Yet here he is, Darren Hayes, saying that was Trump's preconceived idea to put other people in harm's way. It's outrageous.
Exactly. That's my thoughts. Like, you have to make those kind of assumptions or to make those kind of insinuations, you would have to have privy and access to his mind. And you don't. You don't have privy to his mind. So you can't tell me what he's thinking or what he's feeling or what he's doing and why he's doing it. You can't tell me that. Only Trump can tell us that.
I have a feeling, Mark, that you follow Darren's Instagram and posts a little bit more closely than me, only because you made the comment that he is increasingly, Darren Hayes you said that he's increasingly out of touch. What's his feeds been like recently?
Very, very anti-Trump and very more pro-Democrat. On June 28th, for instance, he posted, "I'm voting for the person who will have an administrative that will protect abortion rights, gay rights, civil rights, fair wages, Medicare, Social Security, and democracy. Not the felon who tried to overthrow the nation, deny a free and fair election, who calls soldiers suckers and admires dictators. It's Joe or the psychopath." He posted that on June 28th.
And Mark, here's the thing. That's pretty radical. That's pretty opinionated. But Darren has every right he has his right. But the timing of this latest post and what he's insinuating, and then to basically say Trump got what he deserved. And I know that if Darren was on this show right now, and he's welcome to come on this show at any time, I know he'd say that's not what he meant. But I'm really sorry, Darren, as a writer, a singer, a creative, you knew exactly how that could be misinterpreted if you didn't mean that. Trump thrives in violence. He incites it. He relishes it. When Nancy Pelosi's husband's head was bashed in with a hammer, Trump made a joke. This is what makes us different, he says. For all intents and purposes, he's saying Trump got what he deserved.
Exactly. And it's hilarious to me that he brings up what Trump said about Nancy Pelosi's husband, because the joke was that Nancy Pelosi's husband was found in his underwear. That was the joke, that he was found in his underwear with a male inside of his house. It just didn't look right. That was the joke that everyone was making. How that has any significance or relevance to what's happened today, why you chose to bring that comment up and bring that up. And then, like you say, justify it at the end with basically saying, oh yeah, he deserved this.
There's a seemingly innocuous line in Darren's original statement too, that actually I don't want to overlook. It says, all we can do to separate ourselves from this heinous act, meaning the attempted assassination, is not celebrated. All we can do to separate ourselves from this heinous act is not celebrated. Is that really all we can do, Darren? What about condemning it? He's condoning what happened in a way.
Well, yeah, especially when he says, my first thought was to condemn it. So does that mean that your first thought is gone now? So you're no longer thinking that thought?
The more I read it, the more I think Darren is extremely angry at the moment. You're 100% right. My first thought, this is the quote, my first thought was to condemn the violent act, full stop. And then the ... seems to suggest, but now I won't. And then when you couple that with all we can do is not celebrate it. So it is what it is, in other words, Darren. Is that what you mean? It is what it is. Sorry, the energy has just finally struck me. It struck me as bizarre at first, but now that I'm talking it out loud with you, I'm realizing that whoever typed this is very angry. And if he was here, I assume he'd say, yeah, too right, I'm angry. I'm right. I'm angry about Trump's stance on LGBT issues and his comments about women, and all of that I respect. So I'll just make this really clear. Darren has every right to have a political view, and it can be as opinionated as he wants. But to basically say that Trump got what he deserved, and you can spin it any way you want, Darren, that's what you've said here, that is outrageous.
I agree. There's actually another comment underneath there that someone actually calls him out on it, and he actually responded to it.
take us through some of these comments because I might be missing them.
Yeah, so one actually said, so what we just said, what you just said, he goes, you've literally just made a justification for the attempted assassination with the guise of being anti-violence. I don't condone violence or murder, but... And then Darren responded to him and said, don't put words in my mouth. I never said such a thing. I 100% condemn any... Again, but right here, I 100% condemn the use of any violence, especially political violence. But again, you didn't specify in even your response of this moment. In your response, you still didn't say, I condemn the violence against Trump. You still didn't say it even in that response. You just said, I condemn the use of any violence, especially political violence. But it's still not putting credit or taking it and saying, I condemn what happened to Trump.
But here's the problem, Mark. The bigger problem for Darren, as I see it, is that he's already having to clarify his statements. Your original post is really, really ambiguous. At the very best, it's ambiguous. And at its worst, it is hateful. And it's saying that Trump got what he deserved. So when people are leaving comments, Darren, to say, wow, he got what he deserved, really? You're condoning this violence? Really? Go back and read your post. There's a reason people are saying that, Darren. Fans of yours are saying this. I'm a fan of yours, and I'm disgusted by what you've written. You should really apologize. You should apologize for this. Mark, what is it about celebrities throwing their 2 cents worth in anyway? They have a right to their opinion. I suppose they absolutely do. But Darren's an entertainer. He's also an advocate for, the LGBT community, and I really respect that. But celebrities coming out and making posts like this in the aftermath of something when the world's still grappling with the shock of it all, it's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, this is where it's kind of sad, okay? Because I'm gay, so I'm a member of the LGBT community just like Darren is. And I'm a conservative, and I am a registered Republican in America. It's kind of sad that there's so much hatred towards me even saying that out loud.
I'm going to clarify what you mean, Mark, and I'm interrupting, and that's the worst thing to do, and I hate doing that. But are you sort of suggesting there that because you're gay and you are Republican, that's taboo? You're not meant to be those two things at the same time?
Yep.
Is that true?
Yes, I am not.
Why?
I am.
Why?
Because conservatives and Republicans are always looked at as very religious and that they're anti-gay, which could be nothing further from the truth. There are a lot of gay Republicans out there. And in fact, that's why I always go back to, I find it humorous that people say that Trump is anti-gay and anti-LGBT and all of that. One of his head top cabinet members was gay and openly gay, and one of his best right hands during his presidency. So I find that kind of humorous. His wife is an ex-model who was all into modeling agency, the modeling community. There are so many gay men, gay photographers, gay clothing designers, and everything. So just hear that he's so anti-gay is just awful to me when he's never expressed that ever. He's never said that he does not like gay people. He's never said that he's against gay people. But yeah, me identifying as a gay conservative, I'm immediately blacklisted from the LGBT community. Immediately.
Oh, that's shocking.
I am excused.
That really is. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing it, because you didn't need to share that, but I appreciate that you have. It's given us some context, and what you just told me there is something that I was ignorant of. I didn't realize that it was one of those
You're not
taboo
ignorant.
things.
You just didn't know, yeah.
Well, I certainly I stay a little bit abreast of American politics, but not so much. But more important than his opinion, Trump's opinion about gay people or whoever, are his policies, in my opinion. Are any of his policies anti-gay?
No. That's what's hilarious about it too. People don't refuse to do their research on it. I feel like they go back to the transgendered issue in military, and that's a rule and a law that's been in place 30 years prior to Trump. And then I find it hilarious. Biden has openly said before that a marriage is between a man and a woman, and has identified that his Catholic faith is what brings him to that that conclusion. He said that. You can Google that as well. That's why I find it hilarious that this is where we're at. You cannot find a comment where Trump has openly said he condemns gay people. He doesn't agree with gay people. He doesn't agree with gay marriage. I can literally Google all of that right now and look it up, pull up video, audio clips, television clips of where where Biden, Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton have all said stuff that is either against the gay community or hurts or harms the gay community.
So the point that we're reaching here is when there's a celebrity like Darren Hayes as outraged about Trump, which he has every right to do.
Exactly.
Your question might be, why aren't you as equally outraged by Hillary Clinton, who by her own acknowledgement took a long time to come around to accepting different lifestyles or gay lifestyles or LGBT lifestyles?
Yeah. I just think it's kind of ironic and hypocritical to wipe the slate clean for everyone else, but not for Trump, even though Trump has never said that he's anti-gay or anti-gay marriage or anything like that. Since Trump has come into office and since he announced his run for presidency in 2016, so on almost 8 years we've been going over this right now, I feel like I have learned so much about the left and like people that I idolized growing up, movie stars, musicians, people that have a platform, a celebrity platform. I have learned about them. And it's sad because now I no longer feel like I could even sit at their table and enjoy a meal with them or enjoy a conversation with them because of how much hate they spew about Trump and anybody that believes or follows anything that he says or does, anybody that votes for him. And I'm talking A-list celebrities, A-list celebrities. I could go on a random tangent. These are people that I idolize. I am in love with movies. I literally go to the movies all the time. Every weekend, I'm at a movie, like watching movies. I adore movies. I watch the Academy Awards. I watch the Emmys. I watch the Grammys. I watch everything. And it literally, I have to separate myself sometimes and say, okay, they're entitled to their belief, but sometimes it makes it so hard because so much hate spews out of their mouth. Like this situation right now with Darren, I'm not going to lie, it led me to unfollow him. So I'm no longer following Darren on Instagram because I'm so angry right now that he posts this stuff and pushes it out, uses his platform to spew even more lies or any more hate or any more rhetoric to make sure that we become more divisive. You're not trying to bring us together. You're not trying to close the gap that's between us, that's keeping us separated on the path of across the aisle. You're not trying to make that aisle to where we're all sitting next to each other. You're just dividing it more.
If I could speak to Darren and ask him, do you believe in peace? He'd almost certainly say, of course I do. Yet you read a post like this and it's full of hate.
I agree. And that's where it makes it sad. And he's not the only celebrity that's been like that. I can talk for days on celebrities that have been openly talking about this kind of stuff. But I'm not going to lie. I started out as a Democrat. I believe that we all do as Americans start out as Democrats because the idea is beautiful. Everyone gets treated equally. Everyone gets the same rights. But with a lot of that stuff comes money. And a lot of it becomes expensive. So the way I end everything is always vote the way that it's going to help your family and make you in a better place. And that's why I'm more right-leaning when it comes to that, because I was doing better financially when Trump was in power. I never felt like he was an awful person like they want to try to portray him to be. And I feel bad because I feel like even you are a little bit more misguided in that regard because the left is so much more powerful with their voice that it gets out. And when you start screaming fire constantly, eventually people believe that there's a fire.
I've got to say, Mark, you speak so beautifully, so powerfully, so articulately, and it's really appreciated. Thank you for being on the show. If you had the chance to have Darren in front of you for a moment, what would you say to him after reading this post that he's made to Instagram?
Probably the same thing that I would say to any celebrity. Be mindful of that you have people that love you on both sides of the aisle. And sometimes you have to be quiet. Sometimes you have to be quiet and, keep your feelings sometimes in your thoughts rather than express them. And remember that like some people, like you said in the beginning, got you through some hard times. Like I loved Savage Garden. I loved the band. I loved the music that they played. I can sing all of their songs and everything. And it's just so disheartening to like hear this kind of rhetoric, and you're like, well, I support this man and I like this man, and you're telling me that I'm an awful person for liking this man, and you're making me feel like less of a person. So kind of like the stuff that I was working through, listening to your music, coming out as gay and feeling like your music is helping me and making me feel like I'm accepted, and then you coming out and saying that you're gay, helping me more with that, it kind of puts me back in like that closet feeling of like, wow, I can't even openly say I'm a Trump supporter because I have people like you that I idolize telling me that I'm wrong and I'm awful.
If I'm hearing you right, Mark, essentially Darren Hayes originally told you to accept yourself for who you are, love yourself no matter who you are, be yourself at all costs. And now the message is accept if you like Trump. This is going to end by reading Darren's post one more time. I hate that anyone tried to injure Trump, he wrote. However, there's a difference between extremist right-wing nuts and Democrats. My first thought was to condemn the violent act. When Nancy Pelosi's husband's head was bashed in with a hammer, Trump made a joke. Trump thrives in violence. He incites it. He relishes in it. All we can do to separate ourselves from this heinous act is not celebrate it. That is what makes us different. Yeah, it's not full of love. It's not full of love. Mark, thank you for talking to me.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're listening to Time to Talk.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me on your show. I'm going to give you my opinion and my position and thoughts on the Donald Trump assassination attempt that occurred. I don't think that it was real. I think it was staged because I've never seen anything quite like it before, to where, in his case, a 78-year-old man would get shot in the ear and fall down the way he did and yet get right back up. And most of all, why would Secret Service prop someone up so fast if there was an active shooter? I just find that really hard to believe that they would do that. They are making him look like a tough guy, and he really isn't. So I don't think the assassination attempt was real. I think it was very staged. And on to being a member of the American gay community, it's really difficult to accept that America is moving backwards while most of the world is progressing forwards. So I do worry about gay rights in America with our Supreme Court system, especially given that they gave Donald Trump immunity, which I'm going to divulge into that as well since we're talking. If you haven't done anything illegal, why would you need immunity? And the American Supreme Court is an absolute joke. But again, I don't think that the assassination attempt was real. I think it was staged. I think Donald Trump will do anything to try to regain power in America, including making himself look like a martyr, and anything to look tough, like, see, I dodged a bullet. It's just more fake talking points with him.